Welcome everyone. My name is Josh Horn. I'm with Ivy Tech Sellersburg, and we are very excited about this new partnership with Parker Dewey, which is going to help provide great opportunity for our students to connect with our local employers and organization partners. Um, Very excited about this opportunity, as I believe it's going to really meet our students where they are, and it's going to help provide more bite-sized projects instead of bigger long-term internships. And it'll fit well within their life and studies schedules. So really excited. Thank you for joining us. Excited that you'll get to learn more about it from Jeffrey, who is going to be with Parker Dewey. He's going to share more about the micro-internships and what all that looks like, how you can create your account, how we can get projects posted so we can then get those shared with our amazing students at the Sellersburg campus, to get them connected to networking opportunities and great career experience opportunities. So with that, I'll turn that over to Jeffrey and we can start sharing more about this great opportunity.
Thanks so much. I guess it's morning still, everyone. Really excited to be here. Again, I'm Jeffrey. I'm the founder of Parker Dewey, and just obviously thrilled about our partnership with Ivy Tech. So as I said before, we will be sharing the slides and recording afterwards. We're going to try to keep this to about 30 minutes. I'm originally from the East Coast, even though I went to school in Indiana, so sometimes I talk fast. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, whatever, the chat is open. Feel free to use it. If you see me looking over to the right, it's because the chat screen is over there. So we'll try to keep my eye on it and answer questions along the way, but we'll also make sure to leave some time at the end. So for today's agenda, we're going to hit a few things. First, we're going to give a quick overview of Parker Dewey and who we are, why we're here. We'll talk a little bit about what these micro-internships are. We're then going to give you some actionable strategies that you can apply right now. We realize for the employers here on the call, we're right in the heart of campus recruiting season for a lot of y'all, or will be soon. So we'll talk about things that you can put in place right now. Next, we're going to hit a program being funded by the Indiana Economic Development Corp, which is covering 100% of the cost to help you recruit these amazing Ivy Tech students. And as I said, we'll leave time at the end for some Q&A. Real quickly, Parker Dewey, again, we are a 10-year-old organization. Since our founding about a decade ago, we have been 100% focused on creating real experiential recruiting opportunities for employers to really help engage prospective candidates and use this skills-first or skills-based framework to see them in action. I use the term experiential recruiting. This is a time-tested and proven approach. It's the way we always make hires. We talk about people's prior work experiences to really assess their skills and determine if they're the right fit. All we've done is make it applicable when you're hiring those who are earlier in their career, those students who are at Ivy Tech or about to graduate. We've made it accessible. We've removed the friction and paperwork and hassle, making it easy for you to capture the data and respond to the changing needs. And again, one of the things we'll talk about is that this helps you capture a ton of data both about individual candidates, but also data around your early career programs, which we know with all of the noise out there is so vital right now. The other thing we'll talk about is how this model works in a way that aligns with the goals of hiring managers. It helps them not just make better hires, but gets them immediate support for projects where they can use an extra set of hands while also, again, helping them make better hires. So the challenges early career recruiting is facing, again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Y'all know it, that the process isn't working. 71% of students say that the process doesn't let them demonstrate skills. About half of hires coming out of college leave within the first year. And it's not because sort of something was being done wrong. It's because hiring managers really struggle to assess the ability beyond a resume or interview, and these learners don't have much opportunity to determine what is the right fit and what is the right role. The cost is getting higher and higher each year Again, NACE reports, National Association of Colleges and Employers, reports it's north of $6,000. And what's ironic is a lot of the efforts designed to improve the process, the one-click job applications and the like, have not only made the cost more expensive, they've made the process more difficult for employers. Employers are spending time and money trying to flip through these one-click job applications to determine who's the right fit and who actually has interest. The stakes are higher than ever. And what's your plan? This is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to look beyond the traditional playbook to have candidates who are excited to work for your organizations before you set foot on campus for the career fair. And those students who want to come to your info session event or apply for your roles, even if they never heard of your organization before. We're going to talk about how companies can reach students when they're most interested in exploring career paths, especially during that first year. And when they're thinking about those different roles or industries, but also for when you have those last minute requests from hiring managers. We're going to talk about how to engage students with deep ties to Indiana who want to stay in the state, but may not realize the plethora of opportunities that exist, or the students that love sort of living down near Louisville and don't want to move back to Indianapolis, but don't realize they can be doing interesting tech work down in Southern Indiana and elsewhere, again, in a way that aligns to your needs. We're also going to talk about how you can get data on the job readiness of the students, not based upon GPA or academic pedigree or major, but data to really understand how well a student communicates or problem solves. Again, those skills that we know make all the difference between a great hire and someone that may not work out as much. We're going to help you understand how to see the level of interest by a candidate. Again, we talked about the one-click job applications and how they don't give you much insight about, does Jeff, the student, really want to work at my organization? This helps you determine who's likely to convert and stay. And it's not just interest. Again, it's those actual skills, seeing what they can communicate, how interested they are. These are the skills-based hiring that the CHROs and other leaders are thinking about. This is really experiential recruiting. It's the intersection of skills-based hiring and employer branding. It helps organizations cut through the noise to reach candidates aligned to their goals, but also getting insights on the skills to improve decision-making. Not just hire, don't hire decisions, but also those earlier stage decisions about who do we want to spend time with? Who do we want to invite for a job shadow? Who do we want to interview on campus? And in this economic environment, it's not only data to directly support your work, but also highlight it and share it with other parts of the organization. Again, especially right now, being able to demonstrate why your early career program is vital to strategic success, how it aligns to the corporate initiatives, whether it's around AI or whatever topic, and the data to present to other executives, CFOs, business line leaders, to really show them how you're helping them achieve their goals. So how do we work all this magic? Well, they're micro-internships. If we were together, I'd ask by a show of hands, but I am not Zoom qualified enough to know how to do this online. So I will just give a quick 2 seconds on what is a micro-internship. Micro-internships are short-term paid professional projects that are completed by these learners as a way for them to learn about your organization and demonstrate their skills. Now, as I said, I'm going to share the slide, so I'm not going to go through each of the points. The key takeaways, though, is these bite-sized projects are engaging to students. They're a carrot, if you will, driving them to want to learn about your organization and keeping them engaged after they have interest, after they meet with you at the career fair or the info session. And they also allow you to quickly see their skills in a way that's not captured from a resume and before you invest a bunch of time. These micro-internships are what feeds the platform I showed you, and it plugs right into your existing processes without adding to your workload. Again, we've taken all of the paperwork hassle out of the way to make it easy for you and for the candidates to learn and move fast. Again, not your employees, not your contractors. There's no onboarding. You're not sharing data. There's no temp to perm fee. And again, while the experience is good, we're also tracking all of those insights so you can continuously improve. Now, again, instead of it being hypothetical, what is a micro-internship? I'll show you a few examples. Again, the first one is a company hiring for a marketing role. You can see the job description on the left. It includes gathering and analyzing data, content strategy. A micro internship might be, we want you to do a competitive campaign analysis, use public information and see how other organizations are running their marketing campaigns. Again, you're not sharing data. You're not giving them access to your systems. You're letting them sort of do that research, and you're able to quickly look at it to tease out things like communication, creative thinking, presentation skills. We've seen examples like production operator. This is a great one where they're on the shop floor. Again, a micro internship, you're not letting a student work with a multi-million-dollar piece of dangerous equipment, but you might ask them to create a training manual. Again, you might not even be using the manual, but you're trying to tease out, does that student understand mechatronics? What is their critical thinking like? Can they communicate? Again, another example is radiology technician. Again, when HCA Healthcare is doing projects like this to hire radiology technologists, again, they're not putting them in front of a patient, but they might have them focus on the patient experience comparison. Again, a key part of the role where a student can do some research, demonstrate their skills, but it also helps that healthcare organization get a competitive advantage in hiring that student. And we know hiring nurses and allied healthcare techs are so difficult and competitive right now. These are all examples of where we can help, again, use these bite-sized projects to do this more effectively. Even within HR, we see it. Again, you likely have projects on your plate, updating job descriptions. What a great way to give a valuable experience to an Ivy Tech student, but also to see them in action. The key is that the assessment of students or candidates are built right into the process. When the students are applying, you're getting insights about, are they a self-starter? Do they have attention to detail? As they work on the project, you're seeing, how do they communicate with you? Do they take feedback? And then the work product that they deliver, how well do they show problem solving or intellectual curiosity or those job specific roles? Now, clearly it helps employers, but why does it work for students? As I said, students want to be recruited this way. In fact, 95% of college students said these real paid short-term work experiences are the most effective way for them to learn about organizations and demonstrate their skills. And for employers, it can work anywhere within the process, whether they're employers that want to grow awareness and that brand with the student at the very top of the funnel, whether it's about assessing skills, whether it's about keeping candidates warm, or having that on-demand pipeline. So with that, what I'm going to do is go through 5 very quick, specific ways that you can use this approach right now. And then we'll talk about the Indiana Economic Development Corp funding that they're providing that's covering 100% of the cost. The first example was an organization, global manufacturing company, that was trying to build a candidate pipeline before they set foot on campus. They didn't have the brand recognition of an Amazon or Google or some of the other, again, Eli Lilly, well-known companies. So how do they build that relationship? They also didn't want to deal with the internal burdens. Again, we can't necessarily onboard all of these bite-sized projects, and it just doesn't work. So what they ultimately did was they engaged students to create and nurture relationships, essentially as student ambassadors. This wasn't sort of something new. We've all seen student ambassador programs, but what was different was, as opposed to giving it to last year's summer interns, they used the ambassador program itself as a way to engage students. They essentially posted a micro internship to be a student ambassador for this organization, to identify the key clubs on campus, to support when they were on campus. Again, a 15 or so hour project. Not only did they ramp up this ambassador program, but all of the students who were engaged were now in their hiring pipeline. So before recruiting season began at some of these focus schools, they already had a warm list of engaged candidates. They were already ready. They also had insights on their skills. Again, so when this organization would get a last minute request for an engineer with ties to the state of Indiana, they can already see which students are engaged and which students do well. So again, this was about engaging students before recruiting season even began. What about finding candidates who might be getting missed? This was a global medical device company. They were concerned about not just missing candidates, but they were also very focused on hiring student athletes for business development roles. They realized their local offices had some great relationships with local schools, but they were also trying to find students with ties to some of their other locations who might attend school elsewhere. What Smith Nephew, the medical device company, and they've talked about it publicly, so happy to share their name on this. What they did was essentially create small projects that served as auditions for business development roles. They were able to use these projects not just to sort of reach those students that might not have been thinking about business development, but also audition them. Also be able to see, does this student have the right skills to be in a business development role? And the hiring managers loved it. It saved them so much time and it gave them sort of an early look on if students not only would have interest in business development, but would be good at it. Now, again, we know typical first year turnover for new hires out of school is about 50%. For sales roles, it's often closer to 80 or 90%. In the case of Smith Nephew, their first year retention was 100%. This was not just about having an always on pool for them. It was about having a pool that aligns to their needs, a pool where they could see the actual skills and minimize the wasted time. Now, again, we know this is getting more difficult given the volume of resumes. The third example was much more focused on how do we quickly assess the candidates? How do we quickly work through that volume? And in this case, it was a national fitness chain that was getting a lot of applications of people who wanted to be spin instructors or work at the front desk, but weren't necessarily thinking about those HR roles. So one of the things this organization did is they had some always on tasks within the HR department itself, like I shared before, updating job descriptions, creating onboarding. What it ultimately did was it created a candidate pool that they could use and again could quickly assess their skills. In this specific example, they wound up picking 5 students to do the same project. It was best practices for new hire onboarding. Ultimately, there were 2 who really stood out that, again, share some examples. One of them was an HR major with a super high GPA. The other was more of a general business major, someone in their words they probably wouldn't have even interviewed. I'm sure you can guess where I'm going with this, but if you look at the 2 examples on the left of the work product, guess which was which? The student who had that HR and that perfect GPA was the example at the top. There's good data in there without a doubt. You could see he doesn't really communicate well, not the best presentation, attention to details off. The student who they wouldn't have even interviewed was the bottom one. She did an amazing job. They wound up hiring her for a summer internship and then a full-time role. And again, in their words, she's someone we probably would have passed over. Again, this helps you source and select. This one is really important given our friends at Ivy Tech. We're seeing a lot of organizations use it to strengthen the relationships with campus partners. Again, this example was a local hospital system that was interested in both sort of earlier engagement of the students and driving a competitive advantage in recruiting them, but also driving more awareness of the breadth of opportunities within healthcare. So what they did was they identified some tough to fill roles, like the example I gave before of radiology technician, and use these projects to keep the students warm and to also use it to demonstrate or build a competitive advantage with the students, to really demonstrate why this organization should be the preferred partner. What they were able to then do is not only have the engaged students, but they were able to download the list of all of those students. And again, make sure that when they were visiting Ivy Tech, they could keep the students warm, invite them to the events, make sure they spend time with them at the career fair. We also share all of this data with the schools. And one of the reasons we're so excited to partner with Ivy Tech is we know they use this data. They use it to both coach individual students, to help them understand, again, strengths and weaknesses and give that valuable feedback, not based upon GPA, but actual feedback from hiring managers, but also make sure they're supporting hiring managers as effectively as possible. Again, it's pretty incredible right now. The last example is, again, using it for data that guide your decisions and demonstrate the effectiveness to your teams. Again, this is a global Fortune 500 water technology company. They were interested in making the case for an early career program. They hired a few interns and new hires every year, but they were looking to scale it up. So they were targeting students, again, with geographic ties to their various locations. They also engaged some of their employee resource groups, sort of beyond, hey, we need you to show up to a recruiting event, and really focused on using this data to drive decision making. This is what they had. They were able to reach students with, again, ties to some of their specific locations. They were able to understand, again, data around gender equity, which was very important to them given some internal initiatives. But they also had the data to go to the CFO and say, look at our cost per hire or cost per school. They were able to demonstrate that. Again, these are all things that you can put in place right now. And it works for employers because it goes throughout the process. Again, students are coming from broad backgrounds. Students want to demonstrate their skills and they're staying in that first role. Again, the data is in front of you. You can see the cost per hire tends to be 40 to 80% less than typical hires. When we talk about underrepresented populations, to be very clear, this is not sort of a limited platform. We are open to all, but we see a lot of organizations saying we're really focused on recruiting students who are first gen or veterans or have started in community college. Again, this is one of the things we love. We love the fact that this is truly authentic and effective. Now, the question usually comes up, how much does this all cost? Well, because of the very generous support of the Indiana Economic Development Corp and our close partnership with Ivy Tech, you can try this for free. You can use everything I showed you with no cost. You're able to reach those Ivy Tech students that align to your goals. Again, students with ties to your various geographies, students that want to stay in Indiana. You can get the insights on the skills before the interview. You can keep those great Ivy Tech students you meet when you're on campus engaged and warm. And again, this program exists because the IEDC was really focused on helping employers access, engage, and ultimately hire these career launchers who want to be in Indiana, and really preparing the students for the right professional roles and capturing the insights. So what you get through this IEDC funded program is you're able to post projects. You're able to work with the students. And by the way, the students are paid, but they are paid through this grant. You have access to all of the data, and it's incredibly useful. And as I can attest to, and again, the folks from Ivy Tech should feel free to chime in, this data is not just used by you, but it's valuable for Ivy Tech, as I said before, to help them continue to support you as employers and the students. So what now? Well, whether you're in the process of ramping up your campus recruiting, or you're in the middle of it, or you're not even going to be thinking about it until next year because you have last minute needs, no problem. You can, through this funded program, still use it. You can use it to start to build that pipeline, to engage students that might not be aware of your organization, to get small projects done that you have on your plate, to get the data. Maybe you're an Ivy Tech alum and you just want to give back. What a great opportunity. Give an Ivy Tech student an opportunity to work on a project for you. So, as I said, we'll share the slides. You have the link. Happy to answer any questions. For the folks at Ivy Tech, was there anything I missed?
I think you hit it all. I'm really excited to get this rolling with our community partners and with our students. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I can definitely see it being a great opportunity for all companies, large and small alike. You know, it could be those real small private companies. It could be these large Amazons, right? It could be a great opportunity for all of them to connect, provide projects, like you said, those small projects you want to get off your plate, but kind of serves that additional purpose of meeting new students. And oh, okay, you could, you know, I could see you having a long-term fit in our company. So I think you hit it all. It was great. Does anybody have
And
any
yeah,
questions?
you hit the nail on the head. Again, Amazon has used this in the state of Indiana for roles like mechatronics and robotics. Again, building relationships with students interested in that. We've seen several healthcare organizations using it in the state. Endress and Hauser has used it because, again, college students might not be aware of that brand. And one thing to note about the IEDC funded program, I know I talked about Indiana, but I also know where y'all are located. If you are a company that's based in Louisville or elsewhere in Kentucky, as long as you have a presence in Indiana, it can be a really small presence. It could be a couple of them. You can still use this program. This still counts. Again, when in doubt, just send a note on the page that we link to. There's a contact us form. We're happy to work with you on all of that. This is such an exciting program. But again, I just wanted to clarify that because as we talked about before the call started, I'm going to be down in Louisville this weekend for Bourbon and Beyond. If anyone else is there, I'll be the guy wearing the Parker Dewey shirt and thoroughly embarrassing my 17-year-old daughter. So please say hi. I'll buy you a bourbon. But yes, we want to be supportive. We're huge fans of Ivy Tech, so we're excited. Thanks for the hello in the chat. Any other questions? I guess not.
Looks like, yes, they
Yes,
might
you
be
have another
typing in the
question.
chat.
Feel free to ask it. Yes, you will be getting the slides in the email, along with the link to the recording and all of the other fun stuff in case you want to watch me again, in case you weren't thoroughly bored by me for the past 25 minutes.
I will say to your point, Jeffrey, that just reach out. I mean, I can't say enough how great Parker Dewey has been through the process of just having this conversation and getting to where we are right now. The amount of support that they have provided has been incredible. So I would definitely encourage, even if you're like on the fence or you're not really sure what that looks like, the amount of resources and support that they provided has been incredible. So definitely take advantage of that opportunity and reach out to the Parker Dewey folks.
And on that, first of all, again, yes, right now, right this minute, there are Ivy Tech students that are thrilled to work on projects. Again, think back to when you were in school. Again, there's definitely time that you're spending sitting on the couch or on weekends, or instead of watching The Simpsons like I did. This is a great opportunity to do a real project for your Kumon math centers and the nuclear, like, yes, 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 yes. The students are thrilled about this. One other thing to note, and I sort of skipped over this, I showed some of those examples of micro internships aligned to project descriptions. Send us your aligned to job descriptions. If you just send us your job description, whether it's a PDF, whether it's just pasted text, whether it's a link, send it to us. We have an entire client success team here that 90% of what they do is craft micro internships aligned to full-time roles. Every one of those examples was developed by our team. We want this to be easy for you. We don't want you to have to think about, we're doing work making parts for nuclear subs. What's a project look like? We do work for Northrop Grumman. Again, the projects that we're doing are not tied to anything top secret. They don't require access to air-gapped computers, but they're doing these projects like go research best practices for supply chain around this type of equipment. We did ones where it's review patent filings, public patent filings for organizations tied to a new piece of machine. Again, we love doing this stuff. So feel free to just drop your job description or your question or your idea in the form on the link that is up on the page, and we're happy to help you sort of craft a project. We want this to be easy. The internal term for all of this is Jeff proof. Everything about Parker Dewey needs to be easy enough that I would do it. There's no HR burden. They're not on your payroll. The students are under NDA. There's no temp to perm or conversion fee. We'll even build a project for you. It's got to be easy enough that I would use it. Ashley, I saw you come off mute while I was rambling. I'm sorry.
No, you just answered my question I was going to ask. I was going to ask if you could explain, how that payment process is done with the students, and that isn't necessarily put on the employer.
Yeah, let me go back to this again. I'm happy to stick around. I said I was going to keep it to 30 minutes, so I tried to do that. So again, people want to leave me, I won't be I won't take it personally. But I will hit some of this stuff again, since you brought it up, Ash. Whoops, the wrong slide up. We'll hit some of these things. Students, when they do micro internships, are officially contractors or employees of Parker Dewey for the duration of the project. What that means is they are paid directly by us in all cases. So through the IEDC funding, there's no cost. But let's say down the road, for an employer that wanted to do it on their own, they would set the price for the project, 90% of which goes to the student. That is all upfront on the form, really easy. So I have this project, I think it's going to take about 20 hours to do market research on competitors. I want to pay $500. You would put that in the form. You would see that the student is going to see the project at 90% of that. They would see it at $450. Students will apply. If you don't see anyone you like, you hit cancel, the project goes away, you don't owe any money. You then select Ashley to work on the project. Parker Dewey will send you an invoice for that $500. We hold that in escrow. When the project is done, we pay the student you select, the $450. We issue the 1099 at the end of the year. They are on our payroll. If along the way there's an issue, the student ghosts or something else, we'll just refund you the $500, no questions asked, or you pick someone else. That happens less than 2% of the time, but it does happen. Again, the student who thought they were going to have time and something last minute came up, or other things, that happens occasionally. No problem, we cover it. Or let's take the more common example. Ashley, the student, does an amazing job. You want to hire her. Hire her. Hire her for your summer internship, your full-time role, your part-time role, whatever it is. Hire her directly. We have companies ask us all the time, well, do we owe you money? Are you going to send us a bill? One of my colleagues likes to say, we'll send you chocolates. We don't want to get in the way of that hiring decision. We want this to lead to full-time hires. We want the students off our platform. We want them to leave, not because we don't love supporting college students and recent grads. We want them landing the right summer internship, the right full-time role, the right opportunity, because there's millions of students year after year after year who are hungry for these opportunities. Ashley, did I answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
I see in the chat, IT, marketing, sales. Yes, 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 and yes, Brent. If you send us, again, any of the job descriptions that you have, we're happy to give you specific examples. In addition, on the page, the link we shared before, and I'll go back to that right now. Sorry if I'm making people nauseous with the slide flipping. At the link at the end, you're able to click through. You can see some specific examples. So again, IT, we just did a project for another organization tied to app design. This was again, a massive company. They needed a new web app, or they needed, I should say, an app designer for their web apps. The micro internship was not mess around with our existing app that is on X million devices across the Apple Store or Android store. The project was, we want you to look at our current app and make a suggestion of a new app that we can build that complements it, that would be enticing for our customers. Put together a one-page description of what you want that app to do and why. Then we want you to mock up an app. We want you to use, again, whatever tech tools to build one. It'll probably take you 5 hours, 6 hours to do. And then finally, we want you to create a 2-minute sort of video that walks through the app, why you designed it, how it works, and answers some basic questions. This was the most effective way for that company ever to hire their Android and iPhone developer roles, because they were able to not only see if this individual has the technical skills, can they put together a usable, minimum viable product app in 5 or 10 hours or whatever the time was, but also, does that individual understand customer demands? Can they take feedback on features and put them into work? Can they explain it well? Do they have attention to detail? All of these other skills got teased out that, as they shared, usually they weren't able to figure out from their existing interview process. Again, marketing, same thing. You're not going to give them access to your website or let them put out a PR on your behalf, but maybe you need a blog article written. Great opportunity. Maybe you're trying to do some competitive research. Maybe you have heard about this new thing called AI and are trying to figure out how you can use it in marketing. Again, all great examples of projects that we've seen over and over and over again. And I laugh about the AI one because we actually had some micro interns helping us with that right now as we're trying to figure out where AI fits within both our marketing and sales operations. And we have students doing research, competitive analysis, helping us craft prompts, all of that other fun stuff. Again, we're not giving them access to our core code base. These aren't bet the company projects or things where I feel like I have to sort of have someone in the office 7 days a week and take them. Those are all later. Think about the micro internship like going on a date, where the summer internship is getting engaged, the full-time role is getting married. This builds into that. It helps you determine who are those right individuals that we want to do that deeper dive with. I am so long-winded, I'm so sorry. Any other questions? I will leave you with this then, and then I promise I will stop talking. Take advantage of this IEDC funded program. It is, as someone said, a no-brainer. What a great opportunity to recruit an Ivy Tech student, to give back to an Ivy Tech student, to get a project off your plate from a smart Ivy Tech student who's excited to help with no cost, no lift. It is so straightforward. And we love to help. Obviously, again, we're passionate about this, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be with you all today. Josh, do you want to close us out?
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. I really appreciate you sharing that insight and those examples. A lot of those examples were eye-opening for me, just thinking, man, how would you connect a micro internship to X job description? But those examples were great, and the fact that they can just send a job description to you all, and you all can help come up with those is incredible. Again, I can't say enough how great your all's resources and support has been to this point. And I'm really excited about getting this opportunity out to our community and then in front of our students. I think it can be a really good tool for all parties involved, really. Thank you for those that were able to come, and then for those that weren't, thank you for watching the video, learning more, clicking on the link, and submitting those projects. I can't wait to get those in front of our students and get them connected to you. So thank you very much for everybody that was